Welcome, friends. My name is Avinash Gorakshakar, and I welcome all of you to another interesting episode of Konexio HighFlyers. Friends, in these episodes, we introduce to you emerging companies, from emerging sectors, and talk to them about their company's business model, their growth journey, what are their future business plans, and we make an effort to introduce the top management teams and the promoter of such companies. And today, friends, we have got a very interesting company. In fact, the name of the company is also very interesting. It is NewJaisa Technologies, and we have got the pleasure and the privilege of having the CEO of the company, Mr. Vishesh Handa, with us. Vishesh ji, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time with us today. I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to understand your companies much better after this interview.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Vishesh ji, my first question to you is, this name is very interesting, New Jaisa Technologies. So, how, normally we don't find many companies with these kind of names, and, y'all are into the refurbishment of laptops. So, first of all, just on a very lighter note, if you could tell us something elementary about the company's business model, what
Sure.
are the kind of, target segments company caters to, and
Sure.
something about this business journey, typically, how did this company originate, because this is a very unique kind of business according to me. If you could
Absolutely.
share some thoughts and we could begin.
So again, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity, right? So as you mentioned, right? I mean, it's a very unique name as such, right? And we are thinking of what name to choose, which will basically also reflect the ethos of our company, right? And when we used to internally discuss, like what kind of product we want to give to our customers, right? So we always used to think that it has to be as good as new, right? So we said, okay, I mean, let's give the name itself New Jaisa, so it reflects the ethos of the company, and it becomes easier for the customers to understand, and even for our employees and like the whole New Jaisa community as such to understand that what we are trying to deliver, right?
Exactly.
Coming to our journey, right? So we are a very young company. We are just like 3 years old. We started in August 2020, right? But before that, let me just take a step back and like from where did the idea came? As you were saying, like it's like a pretty unique, and I would say this particular category in such is in it's in its infancy right now, right? So how the whole idea, I think, like it came when I was working in Google, and we saw so many of you these good corporate, like PCs, right, being like discarded after 3 years of usage, right? And on the other hand, I mean, I had that opportunity to look at the market, and we all know the reality, right? I mean, in India, the PC penetration is only 13%, which is very very less if you compare like even with China, which is now at 50%, and all the European countries are now 80% plus, right? So on one hand I saw like like these good assets being discarded by the corporates, right? And on the other hand we saw that there's a huge like a market demand for such assets, and that's where the idea came in, right? And one thing led to another. In 2020 is when we started this company. I with one of my co-founders, Mukunda sir. That's when I met him in 2020. We just brainstormed about the idea, right? And to give you a brief, like what we do, right? Before that, I'll just like tell you like what we deliver to the end customers, right? So effectively, what we deliver are IT assets. These are your laptops, desktops, and all the peripherals, right? So we operate in that particular domain, right? And our key USP from the end customer's perspective is we give like three guarantees, right? So we give a scratchless unit guarantee, right? Why it is required is because we're dealing with used products, right? And all of us have this concern. I don't know like how good this product is going to be, right? Second is all of our products are sold with a 1 year of warranty, right? No matter where you are in India, if you buy our products, right? So again, it like in a way aligns with our new Jessa ethos, that if the new products are bought with a 1 year of warranty, we will also make sure that the customer gets the same amount of warranty if they buy from us, right? At the same time, we back it up with a like a lifetime buyback guarantee. So at any point of time, if you're not happy with the product, we are more than happy, like to buy the product back from you. And most of our products, if you compare it to the new, will be priced around 30 to 40% at a lower range, right? So that's what, as a business model, right? I mean, we provide laptops and desktops with as good as new quality, but at a much better value to the end customers, right?
Okay.
In terms of our business journey, right? It's been 3 years. It's been a very fascinating journey for us, right? On a year-on-year basis, we literally started from a 5,000 SFT of space with 5, 6 folks, like thinking through the idea what to do, what not to do. It has been very accelerating, right? So from 0 to 45 CR, we have been able to reach, right? From 5 employees to now, we have more than 450 employees working with us. Starting from 5,000 SFTO space, we have now more than 550,000 SFTO space where all these operations goes along, right? Um, just to give you a bit more flavor into how does the whole business model works, right? In one line, the way we like to explain ourselves is like we are basically tech driven, full stack, direct to customer company, right? And what does it really means is, when we say full stack, because we operate across the complete supply chain, right? What does that mean is that we take it from the corporates. That's a reverse supply chain for the IT electronics, right? We do end-to-end refurbishing of these products in our own facility, right? And then we directly sell it to the end customers, right? So that's where we are full stack. We operate across the complete supply chain, right? Um, that really helps us in terms of controlling the quality, right? At the same time being able to deliver the price point that we want to deliver, right? We call ourselves as tech driven because I come with a very strong like a tech background, right? So just to like give you my background, I did my education in year 2000 from IT Bombay. I have been a through and through IT guy, right? I've worked with banks like HSBC, American Express, like managing a lot of like turnkey projects from greenfield projects for them, pan globe, right? Post that, did my MBA from IMCAL, was working with Google for 6 to 7 years, right? So I come with a very strong like tech background, right? So and it was like pretty evident and clear to me that if we have to solve this problem at scale, right? Technology has to play a very big and important role, right? So that's where like across the whole supply chain we are like a completely, not completely I would say, but like very strongly enabled by technology, be it in terms of our sourcing. We have our own in-house ERP systems, right? And things like that, right? And of course, we are very clear that we want to be direct to customer company, right? So even as of today, right, I mean, 90% plus of our sales happen through online channels only, right? That's through the e-commerce platforms, happens through our own websites, right? It helps us to like keep our inventories low. At the same time, it provides us the kind of the coverage that we want to do, right? So we are able to serve more than 22,000 like pin codes, though we are based out of Bangalore, right? So that's what like our journey has been. I mean, we have been pretty much like tripling on a year-on-year basis, right? It's very exciting, but yes, I mean, it's very like time like accelerating at the same time, right? So that's in a nutshell, and our journey. So just to add a bit more to that, right? So as I said, I mean, I'm very like thankful that I'm supported by a very like able team. So I am there. Mr. Mukunda is there. He's the CEO of the company. Both of us started this company, right? He comes with a rich 30 years plus of experience, largely in the IT domain, in the refurbishing and repair domain. He has worked with the likes of Dell, HCL, and other big names, right? So he really brings to the table those core competencies that are required, right? Mr. Sharad Sumani, he has joined me. He has been a very close friend for me from IMCAL days. He was heading Western Union, Asia Pacific online sales and marketing. So he's looking at the overall sales and marketing. Mr. Bhaskar, he's our CTO. So I'm very fortunate to have a very strong team who is like supporting this whole journey and has believed in our vision and are like supporting us there, right? So that's
So
just to
fine.
give you, right.
I think very well articulated, Visheshji. Now, tell me one thing. You said in the last 3 years, growth has been very solid. If you could give us some idea, what is the kind of customer base, the company has developed? Since yours is a typical D2B, D2C business model, Could you
Sure.
give us an approximate number? What are the kind of active customers you all have generated? Because this is a business which has got huge scale opportunity. So if you could
Absolutely.
just tell me on this.
So yes, I mean, first to the question in terms of the customer base that we have been able to build in the last 2 to 3 years, right? So because being an online channel, we need not we will probably not have the exact numbers, right? Having said that, I think we have sold more than 70,000 plus assets so far, right? Laptops and desktops, right? So I would assume the customer base, like the active customer base would be anywhere in the range of probably 60 to 70,000, 70K, right? And as you've seen, we have been doubling on a year-on-year basis, right? So pretty much out of this 70,000, 40,000 plus have just come in the last year itself, right? So
Exactly.
that's in terms of the active customer base which we have, and we are very happy because it's like a very broad-based customer base, right? So as we are saying, we have served more than 22,000 pin codes. Our customer segments includes students, they include working professionals, lot of SME segment, right? They really love our product, right? So there are a lot of SME corporate customer base that we have, right? And and these are the numbers which I'm sharing from the March 2023, right? But even post that, we are seeing the same strong momentum. It is continuing for us, right? In terms, the market size, as I was telling you, at the end of the day, the PC penetration in India is only 13%, right? And for us, we are currently, including the new ones, almost 12 million units get sold in a year, right? So if you just look at the refurbished market, right, and if you assume that probably the refurbished market, given its price point, right, if it only captures 5% of the overall PC market, still we are talking about a market size of 24,000 crores in the next 2 to 3 years, right, which is a very very significant number, right? We strongly believe that India in the next 3 years, right, should be at the bare minimum double its PC penetration from current 13% to 23-24%, right? And this is something which we have been consistently seeing, right, for the last 3 years, right? And we all understand that India is I won't say it's a price sensitive market, right? But given the the purchasing power, right, whenever a product comes below 15,000 price point, right, the uptick really shoots, and that's what we saw in mobile, right? I mean, from penetration of 5%, it really shot up to 90-95%, primarily largely driven from Geo coming into the picture, dropping the prices, and and we feel the same is going to happen with the PC, right? Because now broadband connectivity, thanks to the mobile networks and privileges, it's already there, right? And that's where we play a significant role, because we are able to deliver these assets at a significantly lower price point, right? Even as of today, we are not demand constrained, we are more of a supply or operation constraint, how many we are able to produce to cater to this market, right? So yes, to summarize we definitely see it's a 24,000 crore market in the next 2 to 3 years, right? And the numbers will consistently continue to grow as the internet penetration continues to grow in the country, right? So yeah, I mean, pretty exciting phase in the
Yeah,
sense.
so I think very nicely articulated by you. It's a very large market growing rapidly. Now, tell me one thing, that when you get a old laptop, you refurbish it. Now, how is the pricing decided? Because I believe there might be some basic laptops, there might be some higher
Hmm.
end laptops. Typically you
Hmm.
all deal into a lot of products, other
Sure.
peripherals also. So,
Sure.
pricing कैसे decide होता है? Because
हाँ जी.
at the end of the day, it's a kind of a calculated risk which you take. You buy, let's say, a product for 10,000, from the
Correct.
corporate, and then you refurbish it. Normally,
Correct.
what is the kind of strategy? Do you look at the brands, or do you look at some
हाँ
sort of
जी.
the qualification of the
Sure.
laptop? थोड़ा बहुत इसके बारे में बताइए.
No, absolutely. As you said, right? I mean, it's it's a very critical part of the overall, the business model. And we do a top down, right? So basically, being a retail market, right? तो क्योंकि हम product market में sell करते हैं, right? है ना? तो हमारी pricing starts from there, right? So we know exactly what is the customer demand at what price point, these particular units are in demand in the customer, right? And then we work backwards, in terms of like our margins and things like that, right? And that pretty much in a way drives our sourcing strategy, right? At what particular price point we can like buy these assets. Because, and as you said, like one of the challenges with the refurbishing as such is that there's a risk associated with the refurbishing cost, right? But we have our own strategies, in place in terms of sample QCs, automated QCs. That's where I was talking about, that technology plays a very, very big role for us, right? For our ability to preempt the cost that is required to refurbishing them, right? And then, ensure that your cost structure is enabled to retain the margins that we are looking for, right? So it's always like a top-down approach in that sense, right? So we have good pulse. I mean, that's like one of the key benefits which we also have. We have, because we directly deal with the end customers, right? So we know what is the market demand for different kinds of the product, at what price points they sell, right? And we have the capacity to work backwards in terms of the price point, right? And that's a very, very critical decision point in terms of like your pricing strategy. So yes.
Vishesh ji, now tell me one thing. I just wanted to understand one simple thing, from a financial perspective. Now, if you go to buy a new laptop, एक basic laptop आपको एक 30-35 हजार में 30-35,000 में मिलता है. Now, suppose I come to you and I say I want a laptop which is similar and it is a refurbished model. तो मोटा मोटी मेरे को कितने में मिलेगा? I mean, just on a very broader basis, just to understand, how your business is very competitive compared to the original product. Because in India, obviously there is a large market for resale, computers, laptops, desktops. So, you can give me an example. 35,000 में मोटा मोटी एक reasonably अच्छा लैपटॉप. तो आप अगर ऐसा ही लैपटॉप किसी को बेचोगे तो मोटा मोटी आपका क्या प्राइस पॉइंट रहेगा?
करेक्ट, राइट. तो जैसे टिपिकली हमारे से i3 सीरीज के जो लैपटॉप हैं जो आपको मार्केट में 35,000 में मिलते हैं विद विंडोज, राइट? हमारा प्राइस पॉइंट, स्टार्टिंग प्राइस उनके लिए 15,000 से 16,000 तक रहता है, राइट? और जो आपको i5 सीरीज के लैपटॉप्स होते हैं, राइट, दोज जैसे वो आपको 50,000 से कम में थोड़ा मुश्किल ही होता है. 42-43,000 में आपको i5 सीरीज के विथ विंडोज मिल जाएंगे. हमारा स्टार्टिंग प्राइस पॉइंट अराउंड 21 to 22,000 रहता है उनके लिए, राइट? विद एन SSD विथ 8 GB, राइट? तो देयर इज लाइक, एंड साथ में हम 1 साल की वारंटी दे रहे हैं प्रोडक्ट में, जो आपको नए पे भी मिलती है ना. एक चीज जो मैं लाइक व्हाट आई वुड लाइक टू हाईलाइट, राइट, एक चीज जो हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा वो दूसरी ये भी है कि हमारे जो लैपटॉप्स हैं वो यूजुअली कमर्शियल ग्रेड लैपटॉप्स रहते हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग कॉर्पोरेट से. तो टिपिकली देयर लाइक लाइफ एंड द रोबस्टनेस, है ना, वो आपकी ज्यादा अच्छी रहती है. जो आप नॉर्मली जैसे मार्केट में अगर इंस्पिरॉन सीरीज चलता है तो हम लैटिट्यूड देते हैं, जो मतलब आपके लाइक आप नया लेंगे अगर मार्केट में तो वो 1 लाख से भी ऊपर तक के आते हैं, राइट? तो उनकी लाइफ भी ज्यादा अच्छी होती है, रोबस्टनेस अच्छी होती है, फीचर्स ज्यादा अच्छे होते हैं, और प्राइस पॉइंट भी हम लोग, हाँ, राइट. तो हम, but what we like always commit is that you will always at least get a 30 to 40% of the price advantage as compared to your like a new laptop, right? So our range, right, हमारे पास laptop starting from 999 है, right? That was a long time, like a dream when the Akash project by Government of India was launched in 2002, right? So we are actually giving laptops at 9,999 also, right? So we are dealing with some of the colleges and schools also, right? Those are like basic your Chromebooks, but if you buy the new ones, वो भी आपको like 19,000-20,000 से कम में नहीं मिलेंगे, right? So
अच्छा विशेष जी, ये तो अच्छी तरह से आपने समझाया. You explained it very well. Now tell me one thing, is there a kind of a service commitment from our company? Because see, service plays a big role. When you sell a laptop, I mean, obviously service also is important. So do you have some sort of AMC arrangement with the customer कि 1 साल के बाद वारंटी खत्म हो गई तो उसके बाद सर्विस के लिए they will be catered by you, so that the stickiness of the customer remains with you.
Remains, so absolutely, right? Yeah, absolutely, right? So I think, see, जैसे आपने कहा, right? So first is कि 1 साल की वारंटी है हमारी, right? उसके that's like a free service, right? But post that, once the association is there, we are always more than happy to provide any service, right? And we actually try to go beyond it, right? जैसे हम बता रहे थे कि अगर कस्टमर को मान लीजिए 2 से 3 साल बाद अपना लैपटॉप बदलना है, राइट, तो हम उनको लाइफ टाइम बाईबैक गारंटी भी दे रहे हैं, राइट? तो आपको 2 साल बाद आपको अपना लैपटॉप बदलना है ना, तो हम आपको सर्विस भी देंगे. एट द सेम टाइम इफ यू वांट टू लाइक sell your old laptop and probably upgrade that, we are more than happy to do that. एंड इट्स लाइक वेरी ट्रांसपेरेंट. तो आपको अब मालूम है आपको 2 साल बाद उसकी क्या वैल्यू मिलेगी, 3 साल बाद, राइट? तो वो कस्टमर्स को एक तो काफी एश्योरेंस भी देता है, राइट, कि कंपनी को company standing behind the product which they are delivering, and if they are willing to buy it back, that means they have definitely invested in the quality, है ना? So yes, I mean we do provide like service post 1 year also, right? हमारे के सर वारंटी एक्सटेंशन प्रोग्राम्स भी हैं. आप 3 साल तक वारंटी एक्सटेंड भी करा सकते हैं. वो आपको काफी कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव पड़ता है, जिसमें हम प्रोएक्टिवली हेल्थ चेक्स भी करते हैं इन केस कोई प्रॉब्लम्स आ रही है आपके लैपटॉप्स के साथ. So the whole idea is, to create that trust in the customer, because it's a used product, but they should feel new Jaisa at the end of the day.
Exactly. अच्छा, दूसरी बात विशेष जी, now I wanted to ask you that, see, we find that in urban cities, in urban metros, maybe the resale laptops are not that popular, but if you go to tier 1, tier 2 cities, if you go to SME companies, MSME companies, so do you feel that this is a very big opportunity, specifically from people who are based in rural India? पहली बार internet मिल रहा है, now people are getting more and more connected to the internet. So in that perspective, will online be the only medium, or are you planning some sort of effective marketing also, to give a little boost to your business? क्योंकि online तो ठीक है, but physical, when you actually meet some customers, if you go to an SME or an MSME, obviously today business is growing all across, manufacturing is taking a big leap. So on that perspective, manufacturing on a on a offline basis भी आपके कुछ plans है, या अभी फिलहाल आप सिर्फ online पे stick करना चाहते हैं?
For sales and distribution, right? So it's a very good question, right? So a couple of things, right, I want to highlight. तो हम when we started, हमें भी लगा कि tier 1 से इतनी demand नहीं होगी. Most of the demands will come from tier 1, 2 and tier 3. Surprisingly, abhi bhi a significant sale, right, and quite a big chunk, I would say, is majorly driven from tier 1, right? But as you highlighted it very correctly, right, that it could be also for the reason that we have not been able to reach that market, right, which is the rural market, right, or the tier 2, tier 3 market, right, because the internet penetration is much higher right now, और द savviness to buy e-commerce, that वो trust factor e-commerce में अभी भी वहाँ पे इतना नहीं है, right? Coming to our offline sales and marketing, right? So we have some pillars, right, that we always will do things at scale, right? So what does that really mean is that yes, we will be reaching out to offline channels, right? But we would look at collaborations and partnerships through existing networks, right, to help us give those legs and wings, right? But as you rightly mentioned, these are going to be more of our marketing channels than the distribution channels, because we don't want to become a very heavy inventory heavy, right? नहीं तो if you start putting local shops and things like that, आपकी inventory overheads, brick and mortar काफी ज़्यादा हो जाता है, तो right? So one of the things is to find innovative methods, right, and so that we can reach out to them, right, and doing those strategic partnerships with people who already have footprints, and a lot of those works are already on the way. I mean, because these are forward looking statements, I will not be able to share much, right? But yes, I mean, we are seeing very, very encouraging outcomes from them, right? So yes, we will reach out to them, but the whole idea is that we do not envisage a typical brick and mortar model, right? Because हमारा गोल रहेगा कि हम कस्टमर को वो जो सेविंग है वो कस्टमर को पास कर सके, राइट?
बिल्कुल. I think very rightly mentioned by you, Vishesh ji. Vishesh ji, now tell me one thing, in terms of the competitive landscape, we always find that there were always some unorganized players who are already there in this refurbishment business. अभी भी अगर आप मुंबई जैसे मार्केट में कहोगे, तो I know lot of people where people do this refurbishment पे second hand laptop आपको मैं अच्छा बना के देता हूँ. तो किस तरीके का competition, what is the kind of ground reality? Is the market very competitive, or since now you all are one of the organized sector players, for you basically the standing is much better in the markets, and basically what value do you get on the table? Tomorrow let's assume I buy a laptop from your company, what is the kind of value which I get? क्या valuation मुझे मिलेगा, or in what way are you different from the unorganized fellow? If you could add something.
Right. So that's a very good question, and that's where हमने from the starting we wanted to ensure that not the differentiation, but and जो customer को product मिले, right? So in terms of product difference या overall experience difference जो आपको मिलेगा, right, first thing is in the product quality, right? So जैसे as I told you, right, we have a very very strong team of 450 people working with us, right? So जैसे हमने like as I told you in our USP, right, we give a scratchless unit guarantee, right? 1 year warranty, right? So the reason for that is there's lot of innovation that goes, right? If you look at unorganized, right, so you will not even find all of our products, right, they go through refurbishing of each and every component which is available in the laptop, right? Be it your display, your keyboard, your webcam, right? Each and every component, including your body parts, right? So, like when you open the laptop, you will feel as good as new, including the surface finish, right? So that's one of the key difference, right, in terms of quality, right? For example, I mean, if I have to give you some small examples, like if you buy from an unorganized sector, right, they will say like maybe you will get a 1 hour battery backup, maybe you will not, right? We give a guaranteed 2 hours of battery backup, right? Because we have that capability to refurbish those screens, right? You won't even get a scratch on the screen, right? We give a performance guarantee, right? And then we couple, so in terms of product up, like if you do an apple to apple comparison, right, and that's where like the name came. I mean, I'll keep coming back to that because that's the ethos we wanted to put in the team, like, right? So don't put your product right against like a market unorganized and compare, right? But put it against a new product and then compare, right? Where do we really stand, right? So वो एक जो आपको होता है लाइक कि एक नया प्रोडक्ट खरीदा वर्सेस जैसे यूज प्रोडक्ट है, आपको उसमें स्क्रैचेस मिलेंगे, बैटरी बैकअप नहीं मिलेगा, स्क्रीन में वाइट डॉट्स होंगे, राइट? आपको कोई गारंटी नहीं है रैम हार्ड डिस्क कब तक चलेगा, राइट, है ना? सो वन इज द प्रोडक्ट क्वालिटी, सेकंड इज द सर्विस एश्योरेंस, राइट? कि we are giving you like 1 year of like warranty, right? That also pan India. It doesn't matter like आप पहले दिल्ली में खरीदा फिर आप बैंगलोर चले गए कहीं और पे हो, right? Except outside India, unfortunately, we are not able to cater right now, right? But we give the service quality, right? So those are like the key differences, right? So typically, I think unorganized, but yes, that is a competition, right? We operate in the same domain as they are operating, correct, right? uh, right, but the way we look at it is ki, like the market size is huge, right? And the reason, in spite of the unorganized sector being there, refurbished laptops or PCs, right, are not even more than 3 to 4% of the overall PC market, right? And largely the reason for that is the trust, right? The value to tabhi bhi kam hai, right? But like people do not want to spend something where like they cannot there is no service or a quality assurance, right? So that's the bridge which we want to the gap that we want to bridge, right?
Okay.
And make sure that the same quality and the same service assurance can be provided, right? So yes, I mean आपको product quality और service quality में काफी फर्क दिखेगा as compared to a Lamington Road or be it like other places,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So
I
yes.
think rightly said, Visheshji. Now, tell me one thing on the financials. I was seeing that, as you rightly mentioned, top line this year has been 45 crores compared to 28 crores. Profit after tax has also jumped quite significantly. तो पहले तो विशेष जी मुझे बताइए कि बेसिकली हैज द परफॉर्मेंस EBITDA मार्जिन्स आई वाज आल्सो सीइंग ऑलमोस्ट 20% के EBITDA मार्जिन्स हो गए जो ऑलमोस्ट डबल है पिछले साल से. तो इज मार्जिन एंड इम्प्रूवमेंट बिकॉज ऑफ वॉल्यूम अगर बढ़ता है तो आपका ऑब्वियसली मार्जिन आल्सो चेंजेस. दैट इज क्वेश्चन नंबर 1. एंड सेकंडली आई जस्ट वांटेड टू नो, आई वाज लुकिंग एट योर कैश फ्लोज, बेसिकली आपका वर्किंग कैपिटल. आई वाज वांटिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अपना धंधे में वर्किंग कैपिटल साइकिल कितना बड़ा है, और आई वाज ऑब्जर्विंग कि आपका अभी भी कैश फ्लो नेगेटिव है. तो आई मीन इज इट बिकॉज वी आर इन द ग्रोथ फेज कि हमको ज्यादा बिजनेस चाहिए? So, on that, tell us, what kind of strategy the company management is playing. Because see, I can tell you one thing, the market looks at the operating cash flow very closely. एक दो साल तो के बाद अगर आपका operating cash flow positive होता है विशेष जी, तो the sky is the limit for you because you have got a wonderful business. So on this, if you could just share your thoughts and tell us, I mean, we would love to hear from you.
No, absolutely right. So I think आपका first question was on the margins, right, and the growth, correct, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, so the key reason for the margin improvements, right? I think it's like जो हमारा जो organic growth phase रहा है, right, है ना? तो जैसे so there are like multiple factors that play that have been consistently playing role in which are helping us to improve on our margins, right? So जैसे starting में I told you, right, we are a full stack, right? So we play across the supply chain, right? So if you are like completely vertically integrated, right? Otherwise, if you look at the unorganized sector, right? So there are like 6 to 7 players in the supply chain, right? And this is something which is a cautious strategy from our side, right? And this didn't happen like, so it has been gradually happening, right? So when we started, because we have been a bootstrapped company, right? So we like hardly started with whatever cash we had, right? And we gradually started doing the backward integration, right? So as you continue to grow in the supply chain or like reverse integrate, it helps you to improve the margins, right? Second is, as we said, like we are very heavily focusing on building our own technological competencies, right? The operational competencies, right? So that is something which we gauge, with something called a repair to replace ratio, right? Like when we get a like a laptop, how many of the components I'm able to repair versus how many I replace, right?
Yeah.
And that plays a very very significant, because it's an expensive effort, right? For consider like a used car, like अगर उसका clutch या gear box अगर is not working, if you just replace it, right, your margins goes for a toss, right?
Exactly.
Right, versus if you build those competency to repair things in house, right, those helps you in improving the margins, right? So
Okay.
these are like some of the things which we have been like very deeply focused, right, and have been consistently building. And because these things take time, right, and especially when you are a bootstrap company, like trying to grow through your own resources, right? And
Yeah.
that's the reason on a year basis, right? And the third key factor that has played a role in margin improvement for us is the product mix, right? Of course, when we started, we had a lower competency, right? So we started with like products which are not that technically like savvy. Like desktops were our key sellers for the first 1.5 years, right?
Exactly.
But as we graduated into laptops, started doing our product mix changed, right? That also helped us in improving our margins, right? So it's a supply chain integration, the operational competency, and the product mix, right? That has helped us to help improve our margins over period of time, right? Having said that, yes, I mean, the way we look at it is we try to pass on the significant part of it to our end customers. So the quality is more important than for us, right? In that sense, right? So that was with respect to, like the margins and like why you are seeing those like changes. I think your second question was with respect to the working capital, and how does the cycle look like, right? So yes, I mean, so yes, to be honest, we have a long working cycle, like working capital cycle, right? Because typically these products are purchased with payment upfront, which we call as a cash payment, right? And at the same time, being like an e-commerce centric company, right? We have to sustain a 10 to 14 days of a credit period when it comes to sale, right? And the
Exactly.
third aspect being, like because we are very heavily operationally focused, right? Because we add so much value to the product, right? We in so in general, I mean, you can expect a 2.5 months of a working capital cycle or a cash cycle for us, right?
Okay. Okay.
And that in turn, right, so that the fact, and if you look at the numbers, we'll see our working capital cycle has increased over like period of time. And that is
Exactly.
also precisely for the reasons that I really like mentioned right now, right? One, that further integration in the supply chain, and second, like doing more refurbishing, right? So which in turn takes more time, right? So your
Okay.
cash cycle increases, right?
Mhm.
But on the other hand, it helps you to deliver a better profit margins, which also you can see in the like the outcomes which you are seeing, right? The third question, as you rightly mentioned, right? So operating cash, like how much of a cash flow we are generating from the operations, right? And as you rightly mentioned, I think the reason we are negative cash flow is because of the growth, right? So I mean, if you look at from first year 9 to 27, and from 27 to 45, right? And as I just mentioned, that we need to maintain a large amount of inventory with us because our working capital cycle is higher because of the value additions that we do, right? What did that in turn meant is that, yes, I mean, we did not wanted to let the opportunity go, right? And that's the reason, like we to cater to the demand, right? We did took like debt to help us, right? I mean, manage that level of inventory to be able to cater to the demand, right? How do we foresee these like negative cash flow to change? I think there are two, three ways to look at it, right? So one is definitely, I think we expect like the growth to continue to be strong. but we are at the same time trying to work to reduce our working capital cycle, right? Which in turn should help us to become cash flow positive, right?
So fine. I think Visheshji, I think the next question is very important for all of us. That now the company is planning to go public. So if you could just tell us briefly what is the size of the issue, what is the objective of the issue, because I understand that your model is not capital intensive or asset heavy. It is a very
Correct.
asset light business. You require working capital. So if you could tell us the objective of the IPO, what is the size of the IPO, for the benefit of our viewers, please.
Sure. Right. So we are looking at like a 40 CR of a raise, and in terms of like the objective of the issues, right? So there are four key like objectives for us, right? First is there is a capex that we are looking at, because as I mentioned, we are building a 35,000 SFT of space for us, and also we are investing like not heavily, but definitely we are investing in technology that will help us to do a lot of refurbishment capability in house of the at a component level, right? So one of the key objective is investing towards the capex to build a larger capacity and better capabilities, right? Second, we are planning to invest in technology, right? We strongly believe like the kind of the problem that we are trying to solve, right? That requires technological solutions which really do not exist in the market, right? So we have an in-house like custom build ERP, so we'll be investing in that. We are building customer centric like services. We are building platform for our suppliers, right? So we will continue to invest heavily on technology, right? So that's the second key objective of the issue, right? Third, as we are discussing, it's like an exciting space, an exciting category, but it's still relatively unknown, right? And we firmly believe that there's a lot of like marketing and awareness that has to be created in the market with respect to that, right? We definitely want to become one of the brands like people are are able to associate when they think about a refurbished quality laptops, right? So third objective is of course like spending on the branding and the marketing aspect of the same, right? And fourth objective, of course, like as I told you, like we are a working capital heavy industry. That's a cautious call that we have taken, that we don't want to be a marketplace. We want to own the asset, add value to the asset, and then in turn make sure that we give it to the customer so that we are able to control the experience, right? But that definitely means that there is going to be a higher working capital. So a large part of the objective is to help us like support in terms of working capital, so that we can like cater to more and more of our customers who are looking forward to our products, right? So these are the four areas. So right, I mean, right, like technology, capex, branding, marketing, and working capital support that we are looking at
Well, I think
from the.
working capital funding once you get Vishesh ji, I think it will be a very big positive for you, because आपके लिए potential demand का तो problem नहीं है, but I think the
Mhm.
working capital element will get somewhat comfortable once you get enough adequate funding. So obviously
Absolutely.
top line growth will be meaningful when cash flows come to your company, because
Agreed.
ultimately what the market wants is growth combined with good cash flows, and I think you all are right on track. So
Absolutely.
that is fine.
Right.
Now tell me one thing, Vishesh ji, post COVID अभी सब कुछ normal हो चुका है. Demand has
हाँ जी.
started coming back. Now, frankly, now having a laptop, having a desktop is something which is very common. अगले 2-3 साल के लिए in our space,
हाँ जी.
do you think that we could maintain this kind of top line growth? Like अभी 28 का 45 हो गया. अगले 2-3 साल के लिए what is the vision which as a promoter you have? Like at least what
Mhm.
is the aspirational kind of target? If you can not share a number, at least tell us in subjective terms, what is the
Right.
kind of growth opportunity you are seeing over the next 2-3 years, because your growth has been phenomenal,
Right.
demand is there, but then
Right.
can we expect this kind of growth to continue, or at some point it will obviously moderate?
So as you rightly said, right? I mean, the market opportunity is there, right? So demand is there, and जैसे आपने कहा कि right, out of 400 folks, I mean, if you want to guess like how many folks we have in sales, is only two, right? So it's
Ah,
not like we have to like really push on the sales side, right? So
exactly.
demand is there, and I strongly believe for the coming 4-5 years or even more, right? I mean, India will at least take next 8-9, and we are only talking about like a national borders right now, right? So I mean,
Ah,
future, once we have the capability, we can look at like other opportunities definitely, right? So yes, I mean, the next 2 3 years, I do not see any reasons the demands will subside, right? And it all purely depends on our operational capability, right, to be able to like cater to that particular demand, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, right? So and in that respect, I mean, I would so we strongly believe that we are well positioned. That's where we have been like, like very strongly investing in terms of capex, building capacity, right? Getting the right leadership in place, investing on the technology, right? Having said that, yes, I mean, it's not like a software, right? It's a manufacturing, which does has a lead time, gestation period, because you have to, it's like a physical work which people have to do, right? It's not like you build a software once and like there are
Exactly.
millions who will be using that, right? It's a complex problem to solve, yes. I mean, we strongly believe we have strong headroom, right? We are positioned well, right? And to continue to see significant growth, right? As you rightly mentioned, I mean, I cannot put numbers on it, right? But we feel we are doing all the right things. We are trying to like think 2 steps ahead, right? And getting ourselves ready to be able to cater to that large demand, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm very positive for the next 2 3 years, right? And that's just looking at the Indian market as such.
Okay. Last question, Visheshji. Now, in every business there is some risk attached, and obviously our business also must be having some risk element. So, मोटा मोटी हमारे धंधे में सबसे बड़ा risk क्या है? And how do you mitigate that risk? And one more added question, Visheshji, I think some months back there was some policy statement that import of laptops could be banned. उसके बाद वो
Hmm.
immediately change हो गया. तो
Hmm.
इससे हमारे धंधे पे कुछ फर्क पड़ता है? I mean, because there was a lot of hue and cry, when that announcement came
Right.
in, and in a
Correct.
few days it was again remodified. So if you
Right.
could share your thoughts on both these questions.
Sure. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a valid question, right? So as any business, like we also have like multiple risks, right? But I think if you ask me like the what is like the biggest risk, I think that's like what you have very well asked in the last question, right? That's our ability to scale the operations to meet the like the demand, right, on an ongoing basis, right? So I would say yes, I mean, and that's like, but as I mentioned, like we are trying our best to put all the things in place, right? Because we are talking about like large numbers, right? Being able to 5x the company from in 3 years, right? And building that kind of a sustenance at a large base, right? So yes, I mean, I feel like our biggest risk, be it purchase of like operations or sales, would probably be on the operations front, and that too in terms of our ability to scale as fast as the demands are there, right? So that's in terms of like the risks that we see, right? Of course there are like other risks that we are like online heavy, right? Does that become like a challenge, right? So we are always looking in terms of diversification, building more partnerships in terms of sales diversifications, right?
Like,
But I think we are like well in control of things like that, right? आपका जो next question था in terms of like import ban which just happened, right? Of course, I mean, see things like that. I mean, of course, like the day the announcement came, right? That was a big, like a demand jump for us, right? So the prices also like held us because that was largely for the new laptops per se, right?
exactly.
Um, Having said that, these are like as you also mentioned, right? These are like medium term, short term gains that come, right?
Yeah.
But even in the medium term, in the long term, what we see that fundamentally the value that we are providing and the price point that we are providing, there's a huge appetite for it, be there like a government action or not, right? Another thing that I want to call out, I mean, we didn't talk about it, right? But see, we are catering to two demands, right? So there's a demand for there's a lot of e-waste generation, right? And India is still in an infancy of how to cater to that, right? The other like nations have already put in a lot of concrete policies in place, right? Where the disposal or like the right, like the refurbishment or the life extension of these things have become a mandate, right? So what we do foresee is that we will get positive influence from both the ends, right? So there is going to be like responsible suppliers who want to work with organized sectors, right? who can help in reduction of the e-waste on one hand, right? And on the other hand, right, I mean, so it's a kind of a win-win for everybody, right? I mean, on one hand, we are reducing the e-waste generation, and the compliances and the regulations will continue to mature. The companies will become much more mature, much more responsible, right? Which will in turn help us in terms of purchase, right? And on the other hand, the demand continues, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, so this definitely had a positive impact, like whatever the licensing issue happened, right? But I think these are like some small knee jerk kind of a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And we saw like very strong uplift in terms of both the price point and the quantum of sales per se,
Right.
right? Because of that. So yeah, I mean, we are very positive about this and being able to contribute to India market as such.
So I think thank you very much, Visheshji. Very well, articulated by you. We could understand your company's operations very well. So thank you very much for your time today. Best wishes to you and your entire team, and best wishes for your forthcoming public issue. All the best.
Thanks a lot. Really, it was a really interesting discussion. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.